cross-border remittance companies and people like Brian that are working so hard on bringing the regulatory environment up to speed to catch up with the technology. That, to me, all says decentralization. And that's a key benefit to our industry and to our ecosystem. It may not be as efficient. You know, a lot of people would say that there's sort of a inverse correlation between efficiency and resiliency. And we in the Bitcoin industry choose decentralization because we recognize that that's how you get resiliency.
Okay. And I'm Michael Turpin. My bio is on the site. I started BitAngels in early 2013 with David Johnston. We also started the BitAngels Fund, aka the DApps Fund, that invested in digital currencies like Ethereum and Factum and MaidSafe and did well with that fund and Bitcoin Syndicate. And I also run a twice-a-year investment conference called Coin Agenda, and a company called Transform Group, which does PR and marketing and advisory for about 100 companies in the space. So I would say that the one thing that hasn't changed is I stood here 3 years ago and said what the industry really needed to get to the next level on the Bitcoin side was that it needed to get a debit card. We have that now. I think we have it later this year. It's still not really out there in a broad format. And we needed to have a fully compliant U.S. exchange. I guess you could say HitBit, but I mean, even Coinbase doesn't have all 50 states yet. And then the other one is to have the ETF. And the Winklevi have been trying ever since before that show, and they're still, kind of having the can kicked down the curb. So I would say that the largest difference between then and now is the introduction of blockchain as a concept. So it's not just about an investable cryptocurrency that's still there, but then layering and building companies to basically have, first of all, wallets and exchanges, etc. But now you've got public blockchains to do things like Ethereum. Obviously, is a whole new infrastructure with hundreds of companies being built on top of it, private and public blockchains, and also companies now saying, well, I don't believe in Bitcoin, I believe in the blockchain, and that's fine because obviously some people don't believe in forex trading, but they believe in venture capital, and so I think it's adding a whole new dimension. So I'd like to ask, would you say that with the price going up now, we're pivoting back a little bit to the importance of Bitcoin, or are they both sort of heading off in the positive directions for 2017? Right.
Yeah, it's a really difficult one. I think that Bitcoin doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's obviously impacted by so many different things. And even this morning, the latest development coming out of the UK with Theresa May's speech about Brexit, the arrival of Donald Trump on the scene, all of these things matter, and I think they impact on the price. So I think the geopolitical environment that we're going to see in 2017-18 is going to have a real significant impact on Bitcoin price. I think in a good way, simply because I think we're going to see a lot of political tensions all over the world. Certainly that's all of the forecasts that the commentators are commenting on right now. So I think we're actually about to enter into a positive period for Bitcoin price.
Okay, Flip?
Yeah, I think that there's no chance of being able to separate the two. I know that some people temporarily are looking at blockchain as a separate issue. Certainly in the enterprise, it's being viewed as a separate issue from Bitcoin, but they're bound and glued together for eternity. And I believe the popularity of deploying blockchains will in fact actually increase the value of Bitcoin dramatically. In fact, I'm very bullish on one of my investments, Veriblock, which has created a proof of proof which borrows and inherits the capability of the Bitcoin blockchain and provides it immediately to every other blockchain that gets created. That itself, I think, will be part of the vast groups of infrastructure that are delivered to the ecosystem. And when the ecosystem absorbs these fundamental technologies, the net result will be that Bitcoin will be part of the deployment strategy of transactions. It will rise in value based on the cumulative transactions that all of the various blockchains provide. And I think it will give another revenue stream to all of the miners that are involved with Bitcoin today. And that whole ecosystem is going to prosper, and on its back, Bitcoin will rise dramatically over the next 2 or 3 years.
I will ask a couple questions for all of you, and you can raise your hand when I ask a question. First question is, who here have Bitcoin? Raise your hand. Well, good.
A lot more than 3 years ago.
Yeah, much more than. Who knows the price of the Bitcoin? How much mining cost for one Bitcoin? Okay. For mining one Bitcoin, how much cost? Read your. You can tell me price.
It's around 400.
Almost. Who? Other? It's today the electricity cost is $400 for each one Bitcoin. Okay. And including the the mining farm cost, the equipment cost is almost $500 and to the $600 for one Bitcoin price to mining one Bitcoin, because today is almost 3,000 petahash. Okay, so.
Well, Chadwick, doesn't it sort of equalize over time that it historically has been about a 10% profit for miners, so that when it gets too expensive, then people stop mining and the difficulty goes down, and when it goes up, then more petahash goes on. And it seems like historically it's been about 90% of the cost over the last, say, 4 years.
The Bitcoin, the mining today is 70% in China. But not only the Chinese, the ownership is not only Chinese. It's a lot of the miners from all around the world, like Sean, like a lot of the big, the American investment. They go to China to mining Bitcoin because of cheaper electricity. And next 4 years will be next halfling, right? So if you holding, so I want another question is, who will holding the Bitcoin for another 4 years, waiting for next 4 years? Raise your hand. Okay, so do you believe the Bitcoin price go to the $10,000? Raise your hand. $10,000. Raise your hand. Okay, good. So other people don't believe that they go to $10,000, so you cannot raise your hand, right? Okay. So
4 years.
4 years. Next halving. You know, this all the world, the government is fuck. European, England, and Indian, even China, here, yeah, everywhere. So we like them, the fuck, you know. When they fuck, okay, our Bitcoin price grew up, right? When they control it, they always want to control. They always out of control. Right? So we believe that if you believe the freedom, okay, if you believe the mathematics, okay, the people don't raise their hand, you can go back to buy just one Bitcoin. Go back, buy one Bitcoin, and enough. If all around the world people, okay, realize and buy one Bitcoin, I think the Bitcoin price across go to $1 million. In a couple of years later. Okay.
Thank you for your candor. Mr. Chandler. It's what I've come to appreciate with you, knowing you for the last couple of years. So Michael, back to your original question, I think to summarize, you sort of said, does Bitcoin price sort of direct people's focus?
What I said was, is the rise in what's going on geopolitically now bringing much of the focus back to Bitcoin from blockchain? Because it started in 2015 when Bitcoin was down to $200. Everybody was running away as far as they could. And the old joke was if you had a Bitcoin business plan, you had to go into a copy and paste and replace the name Bitcoin blockchain.
That's right, global search and replace. You know, when you asked that question, I was reminded of the fact that I grew up in Chicago and I'm a Cubs fan. Because there's certain elements of this question that have to do with being a fair weather fan, and you know, my father, my uncles, and my grandfather, my whole life, you know, for more years than I care to share with this audience, were frustrated, and they were angry, and they were trying to ignore the team that they loved, and many people, you know, throughout our community and throughout the United States just ignored the team, and then all of a sudden they came back. And I think there's certainly an element of that in human psychology. And then the other thing that I'm reminded of is the first dot-com bubble. And during the first dot-com bubble, there was a big debate that I see as conceptually identical to the debate that we've had and the discussions that we've had between the Bitcoin blockchain and private blockchains. And the equivalent discussion was, well, let me say this in another way. It wasn't immediately clear to market participants that the public World Wide Web would win. There were a lot of very well-funded companies that were promoting and pushing private webs. And
The intranets.
Correct. Walled gardens, and I'm sure a lot of people in this room may be a little too young to remember that, but I'm a little older.
America Online.
I'm not.
Copy, sir.
And so, to me, if you look at what Bitcoin is, which I believe is the best form of money that has ever been discovered by humankind, in order to address the litany of use cases that it offers up to its target markets, the market capitalization has to achieve a certain minimum threshold, because many of the use cases that we're going after simply aren't possible with such a small monetary base or such a small market cap. And so yes, I strongly believe that Bitcoin prices brought people back to focus on Bitcoin from private blockchains.
So I'm gonna kind of pivot that question. It's a good segue into my next question, which is, it used to be kind of like Bitcoin versus private blockchain. In the last couple of years, we've had an explosion of new public blockchains. I mean, even though people talk about enterprise uses of Ethereum, it trades, and it's traded wildly from 30 cents to almost $30 and back down to $11. So in the last year, I mean, we had a couple of what's known as token crowd sales, and more colloquially ICOs in 2014. Two that I was pleased to, fortunate enough to work with namesake of Ethereum. Obviously, we're very high profile, but there weren't that many that year. And then 2015, it was kind of a desert other than Augur. But then 2016, you literally, even taking the DAO aside, you had something like $150 million raised by companies just issuing their own token. And there's a lot of innovation going on now in new public blockchains. And a lot of it's coming out of China, obviously. A lot of it's coming on top of Ethereum assets. You have things like First Blood and Golem that both sold millions of dollars out in minutes. And so I want everybody's opinion in terms of what they see the future for new public blockchains, not just Bitcoin or private blockchains. Right?
Okay, so I'm going to completely disagree. Our experience has actually been the opposite. In the last 12 months or so, we've had a lot of interest from various groups that want to work with us. But what they're telling us is that while obviously Bitcoin was the first iteration, if you like, of the underlying technology blockchain, they have various different distributed applications that they actually want to sit potentially on public blockchains. But more increasingly what we're finding is that they want to do the exact opposite. They want to go for a private permission blockchain, and they want to get help with developing that. And that's all to do with the whole idea of protection or perceived protection, and it's to do with manipulating their own data. And I think it's a direct result of what happened in the last 12, 18 months with some big public blockchains that had some challenges, shall we say, and they've been widely publicized. And I think a lot of businesses have actually said, yeah, if we're going to go down this road, we're going to have investors invest heavily, we want to make sure that we're going to survive. So maybe the best way to do that is to have what is called a private permission blockchain, or in the case of some of the banks that we're working with, they call it a walled garden. So we see the whole shift away from public blockchain to a private permission blockchain. We see that's actually the future.
Yeah, I would take the exact opposite view.
Yeah.
I think that private blockchains are stupid. And I believe that fundamentally they're missing the ingredients of decentralization, permissionless, etc. And I think that is certainly a phenomenon happening today. And there's nothing wrong with it, much as in the internet days there were those that wanted to do intranets for their own private walled gardens. But ultimately those gave up, and I believe that you'll see private blockchains go away.
So Flip, there's something in between public and private, and that would be the Hyperledger project. So what do you think about that?
There is nothing but the blockchain as Satoshi wanted it to be. And I think as a purist, I would say that's where it's going to go. And I think what people will discover is that fundamentally public blockchains will rely on Bitcoin as a base. That Bitcoin blockchain is the most secure public blockchain on the planet and always will be. It has an ability to burn a lot of resources in order to create value of security. And I believe all other blockchains are ultimately going to inherit that Bitcoin proof of work and really rely on proof of proof in terms of developing the kinds of systems that we're envisioning. On top of that, there are other things that Bitcoin has going for it. One is it's expensive to mine. Two is it has security, and it can lend that security to every other blockchain and make a 2-day-old blockchain as secure as Bitcoin. That's a fundamentally radical idea that will transform this entire ecosystem. And then last but not least, you've got a situation where there's limited real estate in the blockchain that Bitcoin has, and it's very, very valuable. And it will ultimately be expressing the value of the transactions that are made to go through borrowing the security of Bitcoin. That idea will create enormous value and will make $1 million per Bitcoin sound like a sleazy dream, when it's really going to be a lot more valuable than that as the ecosystem matures and public blockchains take over the world. And all of the kinds of IT that we used to think in terms of connected to individual corporations, now decentralization will take over. And the value that is there from the Bitcoin blockchain is immeasurable.
Well, I think Pantera was quoted as saying they thought they could get up to $4.2 million per Bitcoin, which would actually make it 10 times what gold is. Chandler, you probably, a lot of these coins have been coming out of China, and really Ethereum is incredibly popular with China. A lot of other ICOs are popular. What's your take on sort of the public blockchain versus private blockchain in China?
I will ask the question again. So, who have the ETH? Raise your hand. Zcash. Okay. BTC. Okay. DAO.
No. Too bad.
So today,
He's trying to find a hacker.
maybe here,
Got him.
the public chain means build the trust, international trust. What is the international trust? International trust means everywhere in the country, in the world, people believe that this blockchain must be the public and international, right? So if somebody want to make a Miami blockchain, and only Miami people believe that, no people other world join that, it's not public chain. So what exactly the public chain? I want to ask you. Top 5 of the blockchain. I already tell you the top 5. What are the top 5? You raise your hand, you hold that. Okay, the top 5 of the blockchain. But we're doing blockchain business here. Actually, we come to revolution, not a corporation. We come to here for revolution, not for corporation.
Yeah.
A lot of the bank, financial company, big player, they are 2 years ago, they don't want to talk about Bitcoin. They said Bitcoin just joke. But 2 years ago, they said blockchain maybe is good. A lot of the startup said blockchain, yeah, blockchain is good if the VC like that, if the bank like that. So they all make a big plan to cooperation with the bank, cooperation with the financial big player. But today, a lot of the big bank, a lot of the financial company realize this son of a bitch come to here to revolution meeting, not a corporation meeting. Before that they don't know. They said big blockchain technology, good. But finally they will realize the blockchain technology will be totally destroying their system. So we come to revolution, not corporation. Centralized always have a problem. Even the Ethereum, the foundation, kind of the centralized, they kind of have a problem. So that's why they have ETC here. A lot of people will be support the totally public chain, no control. If somebody want to control some chain, they're not of the public chain. So we will see that not only this is an international thing. Not only Chinese or American can control it. It's totally the world of business, So I agree with you.
I agree with you.
Yeah. So we think the private channel is kind of bullshit.
So, Sean, I'm going to twist it a little bit, since this will be the last question before we go to questions. As sort of an active VC on the panel here, what do you think when a company, they used to say when a company does a Kickstarter, they like it to then fund them because they've already shown the ability to do sales, et cetera, et cetera. What do you think of the model where someone like Factum goes out, creates a blockchain, raises some money, and then goes out and does a private company too? It seems like more and more companies are doing that. Any thoughts on whether that's sort of the way to go versus Ethereum basically just had a foundation and then other people sort of just developed around it?
So you're
and then flip.
Yeah, let me make sure I understand the question. You're asking, how do I feel about a new product, a new public blockchain that has a private company associated with it?
Well, the opposite. In other words, it used to be they'd come to you for money. Now they're like saying, we're going to go and raise it from the market. And then they might come to you for additional money.
Yeah. I think that to us, we're really looking for a company that has an investable product that has proven market viability, sort of an MVP that they put out into the world, and they have some validated learnings to justify their argument, which is that we have potential to grow. One of the things that I was going to say in response to the previous question was, public blockchains, private blockchains, my personal opinions aside, ultimately we and all of us on this panel are fiduciaries of invested funds of other people, and our own funds too, of course. So what we have to think about is what's going to win, and what's going to win in the time horizon that we care about. We're not making 100-year investments here, we're making 5-year investments here. And so the thing that's so amazing about Bitcoin is that it has achieved a certain critical mass that I think a lot of people underestimate the profound. It's just so unlikely. It's just so unlikely that a system like this that's global could ever have achieved critical mass for a litany of reasons. And so when we look at any company, whatever the sequence of the blockchain that they created and the company that they created, it's not really one of our key diligence criteria. What we're looking at is the combination of those two things and whether we believe that there's evidence to support their obvious argument, which is that they're going to take over the world or succeed in some big way, and it's going to provide a good return on investment for us.
Okay. So you can comment on that, and then we'll go to questions. If you don't want to, we'll go to questions.
Yeah, I think that the answer is already visible in other parts of the universe. So, for example, I believe that permissionless, truly independent blockchains are going to be the prosperous ones long term. Short term, there's a lot of experimentation that in some cases will even yield venture capital profitability. But I think it's really in the value that particular blockchain brings to the market, to the entire ecosystem. Its token will gather that and absorb value. There are, however, examples like the following where we know open source for a long time. And there are individual organizations like Red Hat who have made it possible to deploy open source for people and be totally open. And I think that same model you'll see in this blockchain space, this ecosystem, where the really truly independent, permissionless, decentralized blockchains will win, but there will also be the potential for some organizations to help the world utilize those organizational opportunities called blockchain X, Y, and Z. So therefore, yes, you can invest in a company and expect it to prosper, but in its consultative nature to making sure blockchains are utilized appropriately. And I would not be surprised, for example, if most of the private blockchains ultimately see the light and convert themselves into a truly decentralized public blockchain with the help of some organizations that can counsel them along the way and lose their fear and lose all of the trepidation that usually accompanies the thought process of a public blockchain.
Okay, so we have time for 3 minutes of questions, which is probably 1 or 2 questions. I don't want to step on Roger's time. Anybody with a question? Straight ahead. Say your name, company, and your question.
Hi, Brian Young. My question is about the structure of an investable Bitcoin business. So when you look at an investment today, regardless of the fundamentals of the idea, what are the attributes you're looking at regarding the structure that makes it investable to you?
So we look at the management team. That's the first thing we do. The second thing is that our cornerstone with our business in the island is to keep crime out and to protect the consumer. So any aspects of that talk to you outside this panel.
Brian, I think one of the biggest things that we look at is the runway. So how long for a new business that might come to us, how long is it going to be before it's financially sustainable? Because one of the things that's unique, we collectively at my firm have invested in a wide variety of vertical markets in our previous lives. And one of the things that's unique about this industry is that we're disrupting, whether it's revolutionary or cooperatively with the incumbent powers, we're disrupting one of the largest industries on the planet, most heavily regulated on the planet. And so the big question for us is how much money does the business need before it can actually take wing? We think that a lot of the businesses that are taking money and making a go of it, while they're noble pursuits, they're just woefully underfunded because it takes too long. If you're going for an enterprise sale to the banking industry, it can take years before you make your first proof of concept sale. And so we look at, is it a realistic plan that can get some money coming in the door in a reasonable period of time?
I guess to your question, we were very aware that a lot of the startups that were coming to us were struggling with access to capital. And in the last 6 months, we've just introduced a new investment fund for digital businesses, including this industry. The total pot is $60 million. And so far, we've had about 93 applications. Some of those Bitcoin and blockchain businesses in there. So that was a direct response that we made to a very obvious deficit that's in the investment community. It's just that really good people are struggling to find access to capital.
Now you're going to get 5 times the number of people looking for your card. So I have to give everyone the hook because it's 11:40. I don't want to step on Roger. Thank you to the great panel. And everyone will be around the rest of the day for one of our
Yeah, at the same time. I thought it was you from over there, but I wasn't sure. Sometimes it's different. Yeah. So what are you up to here? How's it going? Everything good?
Did like a bunch of blasts.
All right, thanks so much, guys.
And everything. Yeah.
So our next speaker doesn't need too much of an introduction. He's called Bitcoin Jesus, and he's the CEO of Bitcoin.com. We're going to hear some analysis of the future of blockchain and what that could look like. So without further ado, I'd like you guys all to introduce Roger Ver.
Hi everyone. So my slide today is based on a Medium post by Brian Armstrong. So just about everything in the slides here, full credit to Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase.com, one of the very first Bitcoin startups. And we'll start off by getting right to the point, right? Words from Brian Armstrong, and I agree completely. Digital currency may be the most effective way the world has ever seen to increase economic freedom. If this happens, the implications are profound. It could lift many countries out of poverty, improve the lives of billions of people, and accelerate the pace of innovation in the world. And in the last panel, and a lot of the speakers today, we've already heard people talking about permissionless ledgers and permissionless this and distributed that, but we need to keep our eye on the ball. Why is a permissionless ledger cool? Why is that interesting? It's because it brings more economic freedom to the world. So let's talk about what that is, right? What is economic freedom? Economic freedom is a measure of how easy it is for members of a society to participate in an economy. It has a number of factors such as how easy it is to start a business, whether property rights are enforced, free trade with people in other nations, regulation of labor and business, and the stability of the currency. And if you stop and think about that for a minute, Bitcoin and digital currencies make all of these so much easier. Before Bitcoin, if you wanted to start a business and accept payments from somebody else in another country, in another town next door, you have to get permission from your local bank or from PayPal or from a credit card processor, and they'd have to get permission from the local government. If it's an international business, you'd have to get permission from both governments and banks in all these countries. There's all these intermediaries along the way that everybody has to get permission from. But Bitcoin allows permissionless commerce and permissionless innovation, and that's a big giant step towards economic freedom. And with Bitcoin, the math is what controls who owns which bitcoins. The property rights are enforced by mathematics, right? One of the fundamental laws of the universe, right? We don't have to depend on a bunch of old men in suits working in some building with a flag out in front to enforce our property rights. With Bitcoin, it's built right into the protocol, and you don't have to trust anyone at all other than the laws of mathematics. And again, for anybody that's used PayPal or credit cards or tried to accept international payments, when you install a Bitcoin wallet for the first time and see how easy it is right before your eyes to send and receive payments with somebody else, it's like magic. It really is a magical experience when you see just how easy it is. And that's going to bring more economic freedom to the entire world. And it allows people, whether in so-called free countries or in oppressive countries, you can start a business right now today with Bitcoin. Why is that important, right? Here, let's look at some of the economic freedom rankings of different countries around the world. So we have on the more economic free countries, we have Hong Kong, Singapore, New Zealand, Switzerland, Australia, Canada, Chile, Ireland, Estonia, UK, and US. All places that are known to be pretty decent places to live, right? People have a high standard of living, it's a nice place to live. If you look at the least economically free countries, North Korea, Cuba, Venezuela, Zimbabwe, on and on and on. And if you look at the list of countries on the right that are less economically free versus the countries on the left, it's pretty clear which set of countries you would rather live in and spend your life and raise your family. And it's not just a coincidence, I will argue later. And here's an example, right? Havana, Cuba in the 50s versus today. Not all that different, but look at how far Hong Kong came. And the top of the slide's cut off a little bit, but the top pictures are Hong Kong. It came from nothing to a world-class city overnight, and they're both little islands. Cuba, if anything, is a much bigger island than Hong Kong, but it was just different economic policies, more economic freedom in Hong Kong. So why is economic freedom so important? Because it leads to a higher per capita income, higher life expectancy, higher literacy rates, more income for the poorest 10% of the population, improved environmental protection, fewer wars and violent conflicts, higher self-reported happiness of citizens, less corruption and bribery, right? Economic freedom brings all those things. Who doesn't want all of those things in their life? And again, we have a list of the income level for the poorest 10%. If you want to help the poor around the world, the best way to help the poorest people around the world is through more economic freedom. So the green on this chart is the most economically free group of countries, and the red is the least economically free group of countries. And if you look at it, the countries with the most economic freedom have the highest income level for the poorest 10%. And again, for income per capita as a whole, the most economically free countries have way more income per capita for everybody. And from the most economically free to a little bit less economically free to medium to not so much to not at all, look at it. It's plain as day right there before your face. And Bitcoin helps bring more economic freedom to the whole world. So if you want more income per capita, Bitcoin's a good way to help that come to the world. If you want more people to be able to read, right? So you can read and understand this sort of thing. There's some correlation between economic freedom and literacy rates as well, plain as day in the chart there. Life expectancy, right? Nobody here wants to die. If you want to die, you would have already committed suicide and you wouldn't be here at the talk. So that's proof that all of you guys want to live. If you want to live longer, you're likely to have a longer lifespan in an economically free country than an economically unfree country. And once again, the correlation here is plain as day. Unemployment rates, right? Everybody wants to have a job and have income. Unemployment rates are the lowest in the most economically free countries. The more economic freedom a country has, or a place or area has, the easier it is for anybody to get a job. And the more economically unfree the country is, the harder it is to get a job, so the more unemployment you'll have. And again, look at the correlation here. It's just incredible. Infant mortality, right? Everybody loves babies. Nobody wants to see babies die. If you want more babies to live through childbirth, the economically free countries are the place where you should have your children. Because look at this, I mean, what a drastic difference. And the more economic freedom a country has, the more babies are going to survive childbirth. And there's not too many people in the world that aren't in favor of more babies surviving childbirth. Children in the labor force, right? Lots of people are appalled by the fact that children have to work, from a very, very young age. It's in the economically unfree countries where, you see these 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old kids having to work 40, 60, 70-hour weeks. If you want kids to not have to work in the labor force from a very, very young age, economic freedom helps with that as well. And it's worth pointing out that correlation does not prove causation. But when we see example after example after example in both theory and in practice, where greater economic freedom leads to better results for the rich and poor alike, I think some very strong inferences can be made. And that's why I'm so excited about Bitcoin, because long before Bitcoin had ever been invented, my hobby was studying economics, and specifically about how the more economically free a country is, the higher the standard of living everybody in that country is. And if you take a look around, for those of us that are old enough to remember before the Berlin Wall came down, East Germany and West Germany is a wonderful example. You had the same culture, the same, natural resources, just two different forms of the government controlling the economy. And in West Germany, you had much more economic freedom than in East Germany. And in West Germany, people had a much higher standard of living. They were producing Porsches and Mercedes and BMWs and exporting them all over the world. And people, for the most part, had a pretty good standard of living. And in East Germany, you had much less economic freedom. They weren't producing Porsches and Mercedes and BMWs and Audis. They were producing a great big giant wall to prevent people from escaping because things were so bad there. And that's a real-world example right before our eyes of where we can see economic freedom makes everybody better off. Another example that's still in existence today is North Korea versus South Korea, right? Koreans on both sides of that border. On South Korea, you have a much higher degree of economic freedom, and you have, Samsung and LG and all these amazing electronics and cool things. And I can't think of anything they produced in North Korea other than a police state to prevent people from being able to escape. So clearly, economic freedom. You want to live in an economically freer country than a less free country, and Bitcoin helps that for not just one specific country. Bitcoin helps bring additional economic freedom to every single person on the planet. And it does it by making it easier to start a business. It makes it so your property rights in your Bitcoin are easily enforceable via the laws of mathematics, not the laws of some politicians who you've never met. It promotes free trade. You can do business with anyone, anywhere in the world right now today with Bitcoin. It enables freedom of contract, right? Smart contracts are on the rage. People are talking about that all the time, but it allows people to have their contracts and choose an arbiter of their choice anywhere in the world. It doesn't matter what jurisdiction they happen to physically be in. And it enables people to opt out of corrupt systems, right? If you don't like what's going on in your local area, just use Bitcoin instead. So if we can create more economic freedom in the world, it will serve as a giant economic stimulus package for the world. Accelerate innovation, reduce wars, make the poorest 10% better off, overthrow corrupt governments, and raise happiness. And that's a quote from Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, who was one of the very, very earliest Bitcoin companies in the world. And I remember meeting Brian for the first time at a barbecue in Silicon Valley in 2011. A lot of people might not realize that long ago, blockchain.info and Coinbase were actually one company in the early days. And the people that got involved in Bitcoin at that time, myself and Brian and lots of others included, we saw this vision of Bitcoin bringing more economic freedom to the entire world, and we knew we wanted to drop whatever it was we were working on before Bitcoin and work on Bitcoin full-time to help bring this amazingly powerful tool to help improve the lives of every single human being on the planet. So Bitcoin, and this is a quote from me because I think it's true, I had to put it in there. Bitcoin and digital currencies are the best tools the world has ever seen to accomplish these goals. So let's step back and think about that for a moment. You know, society's been civilized for a few thousand years at this point. Technology's gotten better. People have more freedom than they have in the past. But now we have this tool of Bitcoin that suddenly puts every single human being on the planet on even financial footing with everybody else. They now have the ability to interact with anyone else, anywhere on the planet, without requiring permission from somebody else. Something like that has never existed in the entire history of the world until the invention of Bitcoin. And that's going to help enable all of these wonderful traits that we just went over a moment ago. So if these ideas excite you, and you think economic freedom is a good thing, and less babies dying at childbirth is a good thing, and the poorest 10% having more money, and you having more money, and the entire world's rate of economic growth being faster than it is today, if you like all those things, get started with Bitcoin today. Tell your friends, tell your family, set up Bitcoin wallets for them, install the app, show them how to work it, tell them about Purse.io where they can save 15 or 20% on Amazon.com. If you want the entire world's rate of progress and the entire standard of humankind's living standard to increase at a faster rate than it's increasing today, Bitcoin is the very best tool we have to do that until AI comes around, because then that will also change things a bit. Anyhow, that's me. I'm Roger Veer. These are some of the companies I invested in because I want to see these positive changes come to the world sooner rather than later. I think I probably have a few minutes left for questions, so don't be shy. I have 5 minutes left. So if anybody has any questions or topics you want me to address, put your hand right up, and I'm happy to address them. So, and I see this guy right here with a phone.
Hi, how are you, Roger?
Hi.
I want to know when Rootstock is coming out, how is that going to impact Ethereum, since it's backward compatible with most of the applications running on Ethereum, when it's going to be attached to the Bitcoin blockchain, since it's more robust.
So his question is, how is Rootstock coming out going to affect Ethereum and everything else? That's probably a better question for Sergio than myself. Although, at this point, one thing that I think a lot of people haven't given too much thought to yet is that we're kind of, Bitcoin was the first, but now we're kind of seeing an evolution of cryptocurrencies, and there's thousands of these now, and they're all competing against each other in a bit of a Darwinian evolution of cryptocurrencies. And so Bitcoin has the lead and is the king of the hill, and it has a giant network effect that'll be really, really hard to overcome. But, you know, once upon a time, T-Rex was the king of the world, and it didn't seem like anything could overcome that. And so Bitcoin's not guaranteed to be the winner in the end, but the more stuff that's built upon Bitcoin and the more stuff that happens with it, the more that its top dog position is cemented in. But it's not guaranteed to win in the end. So that's my long-winded answer to a question that I don't have much of an answer to.
So that was my question. Well, as an investor, what would you be looking out for? For instance, we had a disruption like the dot-coms. The markets go down, business could go down, just look at it. Because a lot of it is leverage, as you were expecting. So,
I'll repeat the question so everyone can hear it soon.
okay. So basically, my question is, what would you be looking out for that could undo Bitcoin itself? I'm not saying that, unleveraging is going to undo it. No, I'm saying, what would you as an investor be looking out for? And then, what if there's an electricity event? Electricity goes out suddenly.
So many
Whatever.
hypotheticals.
My question is, what is it that you're looking for?
So I think the short version of the question is, what are my biggest concerns in regards to Bitcoin? And I think at this point, my two biggest concerns in regards to Bitcoin, not to open too big of a can of worms, are scalability and then privacy. I think the privacy aspects of Bitcoin have been ignored a bit recently. In the early days of Bitcoin, everybody assumed that Bitcoin was much, much, much more private than we now know that it is today. Bitcoin's not nearly as private as it should be and needs to be. And a lot of regulators or bankers or those sorts of people, they think, oh, you can't have some private currency. But if you think about it, one of the characteristics that make something money is fungibility. And fungibility is just another word for privacy. So if you want to have something that works well as money, it has to be fungible. And in order for something to be fungible, it has to be private. So that's an inherent characteristic of money that Bitcoin needs to improve upon in the future. So those are the two things that I'm the most concerned about. So right here in the front.
So I noticed you have Ripple on there, and there's I think there's a bit of controversy. Is that really a blockchain? And can you just give us your opinion on Ripple?
So the question is, why is Ripple listed on there? So I invested in Ripple in 2012, I think it was, when Bitcoin was about $2. And at that point, we didn't even know what Ripple was going to be. I put up the initial seed money, basically, to start Ripple. And the initial idea at the time was that it would be just like Bitcoin, but without the same proof of work system. It would have a different consensus mechanism. And then lately, it's transitioned to something for banks, and I'm not even really too sure about what they're up to at the moment, to be honest, because I've been focusing all my time on Bitcoin, so, and I haven't updated the final page of my slide for several years either, so that's why it's still listed there. But more power to Ripple. The more things we're trying around the world, the more likely we're going to have, new and cool things that everybody gets to use. And I apologize, I think that's the end of my time, but I'm here until Friday, actually. The conference isn't happening on Friday or Thursday, but I'm here all day today, all day tomorrow. Feel free to pull me aside. I'm happy to talk to any and all of you. Thank you all so much for getting involved. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone you know about the program. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Roger. All right, so that was awesome. So, up next, we're going to be talking about mining. When we send our payments out, it seems like magic internet money and everything just seems to keep on working. But there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes. There's companies across the world competing to process your transaction, and to do so is actually a lot more complicated than you think. So here we're going to introduce Marco Strang, the CEO of Genesis Mining, one of the largest Bitcoin and Ethereum mining companies in the world. So let's go to that.
So, hello everybody. First up, I have to say I'm really appreciate to be here today. And it's also very great for me to see that we have such a crowded place and so many people came here to learn about Bitcoin and to meet the people in the Bitcoin world. I remember last year it was also quite a crowded conference, and this is always great to see. Today I want to speak about a very critical topic and very exciting one. We're going to talk about mining, why it is needed, and also at the end we're going to talk about the opportunities that you can have as an investor or as a miner to make some profit or get rewarded by doing so. And I'm going to start with the very basics. I'm going to start with explaining the term blockchain and come from the top down, come from the higher level. First look at blockchain and then go down deeper to why mining and blockchain, and then go to the opportunities. Because also a lot of people are here to learn about blockchain itself, which is, right now blockchain is just a huge, everyone is talking about it in the finance world. There's huge conferences everywhere. So let's get started directly. Just need to get my clicker here. All right. So what is blockchain? I think simply put, I find the really most precise and best definition of blockchain. I really always use the quote of Eric Schmidt, the former Google CEO, and he put it very simple. There's two things. It's blockchain is a digital good that has two things, and both have to get there. One is the immutability of this digital good, and the second thing is that it's duplicable. So it's duplicable, but also not it's immutable, but also duplicable. And if you look in the digital world, you don't have that. For example, take the decentralized database. Decentralized database you can duplicate, yes, very good, perfect, but you can manipulate. You can without any problem. You just take it, copy it, and then you just you just change the data inside, and no one would realize. In the blockchain, this is not possible, and this is the very key point, to have these two, immutability and duplicability together. We are deciding between public and private blockchains. Simply said, public blockchains are used for a selected group of people. For example, companies get together and use the blockchain as a layer, a common layer for themselves, and doesn't open it up for the public. Public blockchains are just open for everyone, and everyone can participate. Of course, the difference of each side has benefits or disadvantages, or not necessarily, it's just different things to look at. Public blockchains are just, you have more decentralization, it's open for everyone, and yeah, you see here a list of the differences. It's just because those entities have different interests. Businesses, for example, they are fine with restricting the blockchain and not open it up to everyone, but therefore have more control over the blockchain. The public blockchain is no one controls, for example. But businesses want to rely on that. What they have to store their data on, they control, and they can change things if something goes wrong. Yeah, now coming to digital currencies, and of course Bitcoin and Litecoin and all the others that you know. And digital currencies is a perfect example, and the biggest, of course, for public blockchains. Because Bitcoin, I mean, that's how everything started with Bitcoin. The Bitcoin blockchain, it's the most secure right now and the biggest one. And in general, the digital currencies form a good example of public blockchains. And it is an ecosystem where everything is going hand in hand. The exchanges are binding the networks, miners are securing it, and the users are revitalizing the network. This is the kind of high-level perspective on the whole digital currency. On all digital currencies, on most of them, you have these unique features, and of course, Bitcoin is not it's not special here. It's sharing exactly these. Just roughly, I mean, there are so many cryptocurrencies, altcoins, but really the giants right now, or the biggest ones, are, I mean, the by far bigger one, Roger said it before as well, of course, it's not a question, it's Bitcoin. It's $15 billion market cap right now. It's by far the most secure chain because there's the most mining power behind it. And then we also have Ethereum, which has also some very big, exciting features, and it's quite different in a lot of ways than Bitcoin. Of course, there are now a lot of others I could call as well. I just picked out these two, and by just giving the two examples, but I could equally also say Litecoin or Dash or Monero. There's a great talk about it also, and there's a lot of innovation in this market. So now the big question is, why do these cryptocurrencies, or in general public blockchains, need mining? Why do these people that validate the transactions, why is it justified that they're earning money, or why do we need this? The answer is because of the decentralization and because of the decentral nature of the cryptocurrencies. No one has the power to influence these, and this is exactly the philosophy. And because of that, you need a decentralized verification mechanism. And this is exactly what miners are about. They are validating the transactions. Everyone can participate, and they get rewarded for that. And for example, in Bitcoin, there is around every 10 minutes a block is found by the miners, and the one who finds the block gets 12.5 Bitcoin. And there's 1,800 Bitcoins every day, and you can calculate. I mean, Bitcoin is nearly $1,000. It's quite a lot of money that is every day put out to all the miners, and that gives the big monetary incentive why miners mine and why it is necessary. And of course, now people are coming and saying, hey, why is it really necessary? Or it costs also a lot of electricity and energy is burned by that. But this is the price you have to pay for having a decentralized currency like Bitcoin or the others. This is really the price you have to pay. And whether that is justified, the market decides. And it's a big innovation, and people realize, oh, it's really worth. So instead of, for example, looking at MasterCard or Visa, or they have their central spots where they validate their transactions. They don't have that high electricity bills, but you have you have the central. You have it all together at their main data centers, and in Bitcoin you just have to distribute it everywhere. Just a brief look on the technological side and Bitcoin mining. We started Bitcoin when Satoshi started mining. He used his computer with the CPU. Then very quickly people came and found a way to optimize the algorithm for the graphic cards, and they were much better doing that because of their nature and how they are built. Then, of course, more technical people came and built FPGA modules. They were a bit better than the GPUs, and then the big jump came from the FPGAs to the ASICs. And right now, of course, the ASICs is not one thing. ASICs are getting better and better. We're reaching smaller and smaller nanometer sizes, and the innovation keeps growing. But in these steps, from the FPGA to ASIC, it was a quantum leap, so to say. And but yeah, innovation is continuously ongoing here because there's a lot of money at stake. It's 1,000, as I said, 1,000 Bitcoin, 1,800 Bitcoins every day. The market right now for specifically Bitcoin mining can be classified in two categories. There's home miners and there's the large-scale mining operations. And home mining was a big thing at the start, especially when the CPU and GPU mining was there, because people could use imagine that, I mean, everyone could use their computer and make money. I always tell this one story. There was one guy in England who one morning he just sat on the table and had breakfast and read in the newspaper. Bitcoin now traded at more than $200, and he was just crazy. He was jumping out and said, "What? $200?" And then he remembered that he mined with his own laptop a bunch of Bitcoins earlier, and then he looked back in the wallet and saw actually how much Bitcoin he mined, and he mined a couple of, I think, more than tens of thousands of Bitcoins, and he was saying, "Wow, how crazy is this? How to get these Bitcoin back?" And then he realized, I had put it into the trash at one point because I just didn't realize it's worth it. And then it was a big story in the news, and I think he then collected money for the investors to really dig into the waste dispensary and trying to find his laptop where he mined the coins. And they didn't find it. So that was just looking back in those days. And of course, I mean, also when the ASICs came, people ordered the ASIC machines and plugged it into their home. It's just a great experience. Also, people had their own home mining farms. and did mining. And they bought the mining hardware from the manufacturers. They installed the hardware from normal accessories, and they mostly used the community software. The large-scale mining part was at the beginning not so much existent, but grew, of course, a lot, and by now is by far the most dominant part of the mining market. And that happened because companies took places were really searching for the places in the world where the electricity is minimum, and they have, they really were searching for this electricity on the planet, and decided to make a large farm there. And by doing so, of course, they could use all the benefits of economy of scale, and had quite a lot of advantages. And the bigger they got, the more advantages they had compared to the home miners. So these are two examples of two large-scale farms. We have one, that's the Enigma farm, it's a GPU mining cluster, and of us we have in Iceland, and below we also, it's a Bitcoin ASIC mining farm. And the difference here between the home miners is, as I said, the economy of scale, and just massive optimization on the infrastructure side. And also there is custom software, optimization software developed. I will talk later briefly about it, where you have further benefits. So now having all this said, the key question I always hear is, I read so much things about mining on the internet, and people are all saying it's not profitable and it's very difficult. Where's the thing here? I cannot say it's by definition profitable, but if it would not be profitable, no one would do it. So I think summarizing, I can say mining is a hard market, and you have to be really the top one, and you need to be very wise and make the right decisions in order to make a profit on that. And you can burn yourself very, very easily, and it's not so easy as it seems. But let me summarize here the key points you need to know about mining and what you really need to know in order to make a good decision on a mining investment. Mining is categorized, or the most efficient point in mining is to have the highest efficiency. Because if you have the highest efficiency, you can continue to mine while others cannot cover their costs anymore and have to drop out. And if that happens, you will, of course, increase your market share and make an even higher profit. And the efficiency can be categorized in three parts. We have the hardware efficiency, where it comes in the chip level and the machine level. We have the infrastructure efficiency, where, of course, the economy of scale is important, and the software monitoring and all that, oversight of all the facilities. And very critical as well, and not to be overseen, is the electricity rates. Because this is also a scaling factor. If you double your capacity, you have double your bill by the same, if you have the same electricity conditions. So those are the 3 points. And now here we see a very simplified model of, but it's very simplified, but it shows very well this dynamics what I just explained. We have 3 kind of efficiency classes in miners. We have the blue line, the highest efficient, the miner with the highest efficiency. The orange one is the miner with the medium efficiency, and we have the green one that has the lowest efficiency. And now we are seeing on the vertical axis the accumulated return, and on the horizontal axis we see the time. And we're now assuming that each of those 3 miners have the same market share, and that and we're assuming that the profit is declining over time. And what will happen? And what you see there is right at the beginning, the green line stops to increase. Why? Because at one point The green one is the first miner that really feels if the profitability is dropping, because he's the first one that cannot cover his bills, because he has the lowest efficiency. So instead of continuing to mine in debts, he has to drop out and needs to turn down his miner. So he stops, his cash flow is constant, there's no profits anymore. If that happens, we have the orange line, looking at the orange miner and the blue miner, get a larger share, obviously, and they get a boost in their profits because they have a larger market share. The green one is already out, and now they share the market two-thirds. Those two share the whole market, and not three. So they have a boost in the profit, and then at one point the orange one also has to drop out because it's not because he's not economic anymore. And then he has to drop out. But the blue one has the highest efficiency, he can continue and he gets another boost. So he's the clear winner there, and he's the one that makes the money in the end. Maybe the others as well, but the green one, of course, the blue one has the by far best chances and has the best position. To reach this efficiency, I gave the three important points that mattered. For one point was the economy of scale and also infrastructure optimization and software management tools. And I just want to don't want to go into the detail, but what you see here is Genesis Hive. It's our in-house software that we use for our farms. And we also license this out for large-scale other miners that would like to have a software and a tool in order to maintain and monitor their large operations. We only do this for large miners, so it has to be more than 1,000 machines in the mine. This is Genesis Hive. I think is really optimized for that. There is a lot of solutions where you can control your 5 to 10 rigs easily, but if it comes really in the thousands, you really have to kind of some problems emerge that you don't have in a small scale. For example, where are the rigs that might be down now, or where is, for example, where is it getting very hot in the farm? You can see that, for example, Hive offers a gradient map, a thermal map, where is the hottest parts of the farm. And so that the engineers and maintainers directly see where it's getting too hot and can optimize it. Also, for example, there's frequency tuning, out-of-frequency tuning involved, so the miners get optimized automatically. As said, I don't want to go into the detail, but maybe this is interesting if you have a large-scale farm. We are using that for our internal purpose, and it was just designed at the beginning just for us, but we license that out right now. So if you have those optimizations on the side, on the infrastructure, there's another interesting point that we also offered from the beginning. I mean, Genesis Mining is now operating since the end of 2013. Just on a side, we have nearly around 500,000 customers, and what we offered since the beginning on was something that's called the auto trading functionality, which basically, for a given mining algorithm, as you know, I mean, there's so many cryptocurrencies. It's more than 1,000 right now. So each cryptocurrency is having their own market capacities and communities, and you can now go more advanced, and you can basically do portfolio optimization on the coins to mine. So you can just look what coins you want to mine, and you have the option to distribute your hash power on these coins and mine other coins, but also you can mine the other coins and then change it back to Bitcoin and then get a more profitable solution out than, for example, mining one coin directly. So you can mine a lot of coins and then convert it back to this one gold coin that you want to have and increase the efficiency. So you use the whole opportunity, the whole altcoin market that you have. Of course, it depends on the algorithm. So with Bitcoin, with SHA algorithm, there's Bitcoin. For Script, there's much other algorithms, and for X11, there's other. This is getting a bit technical, so anyone who has a question on that can ask at any time. Yeah, I think it's clear what I want to say with this. On the other hand, there's other opportunities. So, for example, Genesis Mining was this one other. I mean, there are also other providers, but what we are doing is we offer all these three benefits that you have in mining, that you need to have in mining to be competitive. We have these large-scale operations all over the world, and we are now offering everyone to start with a small amount of money to continue to get into the mining and use all the economy of scale and all the benefits, cheap electricity rates, etc. Of course, whether that is profitable, I'm not Jesus. I cannot say. There's also risk in mining, obviously, but we offer all those large scales and economy of scale and benefits to already the small people. I think besides that, no one would ever be able to have any chance in getting into the mining with, for example, $20 or $100 or even $1 million. The market is already developed so far that if you want to really play in this game as a single entity, you have to put down, you should really put down 10 million or above in order to make sense. But we have expanded our facilities over the years, and we are at the stage and we're offering everyone to participate. That's the one angle, and the other angle is for large-scale, high-net-worth individual investors that want to go in, or institutional investors. We have created the Logos Fund. It's the first regulated Bitcoin mining fund. Was found and started in June last year. The minimum investment is 200,000 euro or 200,000 US dollar in the American side, and that makes it possible for people to leverage on Bitcoin and also buy Bitcoin mining as a security. Here's just the historical performance of the Logos Fund since inception. So we started 2016 last year. And we have, you see on the blue line, you see Logos performance, and on the red line, you see the Bitcoin price. What you can see is that I think the conclusion out of this chart is that Logos offers, here in this case, you have the upside of the Bitcoin price, but you don't have the high volatility and this max drawdown that you see, for example, here in the middle, where the Bitcoin price dropped quite a lot. So I think that's very interesting, and of course mining offers this flexibility that you're not really completely exposed to the Bitcoin price, because even if the Bitcoin price goes down, you on an ongoing basis you earn your mining rewards, and that makes it of course very interesting. It's really comparable to gold mines. Having gold mines, if the gold price goes down, your gold mine can still be very profitable and get some good returns. Yeah, to round it up, I think, and looking into the future now, just by what I'm seeing and what we are seeing is that, I mean, the demand of Bitcoin is, and other currencies, but particularly Bitcoin is just getting more and more. More people want to get in the game, but there's less and less Bitcoin that are mined. And there's only 25% Bitcoins, less than 25% of all the Bitcoins that are still mined until the year 2140. And this is just creates a very exciting situation where the big investors are either buying on the exchange, but when they buy on the exchange, the price can be influenced a lot, obviously. So they buy OTC, for example, from the miners, or they mine them, or they just have this huge mining operations. But the time is now, because there's only 25% left, and now a lot of people want to get in and want to get these 25%. And this is very exciting. And of course, the other thing, we all know the economics. If there is increasing demand, but the scarcity is getting higher, that usually, economically, leads to a higher price. And that, of course, makes it even more interesting for people to get in. So if you want to start mining, I think now is the time. Every day counts, and I hope I could clarify some questions and share some light into this exciting mining market. Thanks a lot for your attention. Okay, yeah, sure.
Clarify a little bit how miners may be able to develop a new revenue stream for blockchains?
Yeah, very good question. I think that, well, you're completely right. I mean, there's this huge demand right now for blockchain, which is the wider spectrum. Bitcoin is one, the biggest chain so far, public blockchain, but there is a lot of things to come also in parallel to Bitcoin. And where mining is interesting is always on the proof of work blockchain. And that can be all, even private blockchains would need some kind of verification. And they can have other other consensus systems, for example, proof of stake or something. But you have to see proof of stake has not been proven right now. So proof of work, people know that it works, and that gives an opportunity for miners. So, for example, if businesses now or the banks come together, say they want to make their own private blockchain. They could go and search for miners to validate this blockchain. So as a miner, you can be the validator in the future for blockchain or sorts. So we get a lot of requests already for people that ask us, can you secure our blockchain when we launch our blockchain or when we launch our coin or whatever.
So how does the miner get paid?
The miner gets paid by the system. Could you hold this for a second? So it's I didn't want to say it in the talk because it would have been too technical, but basically you're validating the transactions and the system gives out, or you find, the one gets the reward that finds the block. And finding the block meaning validating the transactions and hashing the code in the block and then finding this right node parameter to validate this block. And that's how the miners earn money. So you have to prove that you found the block, and then you have to be the first that finds the next block, and then you get this block reward of 12.5 Bitcoin, for example, in the Bitcoin case. But if it's a different blockchain, it can be all sorts of other coins or tokens or whatever.
And how would they specifically reward the miner for validating?
So are we gonna go eat?
No. It would be in the blockchain. It's coded in the blockchain. There is no entity that gives them out. They just appear. For example, in the Bitcoin blockchain, the one that finds the block, you see it in the blockchain that new coins created. That when the block is found, they have a Coinbase address, and on those Coinbase addresses, the coins are sent. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. There's a lot of questions. Maybe you start.
Yes, please.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's making it very difficult for these businesses to series scams.
Yes.
They're definitely scams.
They are.
I've also seen Big Club. I'm trying to figure out. I had a good conversation with Big Club.
Yeah.
Big Club, we're on the same line. And what can we do with the Bitcoin community to kind of differentiate and keep that noise out from the haters? What legitimate scams?
Yeah. It's a very good question. It's a very pressing issue